After you submitted your CV to any company, they responded that you have an interview tomorrow. You prepared for this interview, especially since the HR told you that all the interview questions are technical, but in a multiple-choice format, and you need to choose the correct answer. However, you still don't know what to study or focus on, so you decided to rely on your extraordinary ability and use love in your solutions. Intuition. You've always used love in your solutions and succeeded, and tomorrow you will succeed as well. You went to the interview and saw questions that you had encountered before, but you didn't remember anything from them, and began choosing the answers that you felt were correct. You picked an answer you liked, feeling a chemistry with it, and then you were surprised when the interviewer asked you why that answer was correct since the questions were multiple choice and he wanted to know why. Oh, unexpected. You told him, I felt it. It felt right to me, my heart was at ease with it. The HR man looked at you and said, you came here to work based on feelings. We don't need that to work with us. Intuition is defined as the ability to understand something very quickly without the need for logical reasoning. It's the fastest answer that comes to your mind in the first few seconds without thinking about it. In other words, it's the feeling you get when you want to do something specific. But can we rely on this inner calling, or could it be wrong and cause problems? The beautiful philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein poses a thought-provoking question to his students. If you had a rope that you found around the earth at its circumference, but while you were wrapping it, a bit of it became loose and you have an extra meter left, imagine distributing this 1 meter around the earth equally. How high off the ground would the rope be? If you used your intuition to provide a logical answer, you might say something very small, perhaps fractions of a millimeter, but the actual answer would be 16 centimeters. Only 2 types of people would find this answer intuitive: athletes and tailors. Athletes are those who use mathematics in their lives, so this answer becomes intuitive for them. If you relied on your intuition here, you would end up with a wrong answer. Take another example. If I told you there was a very shy, introverted, patient, well-organized person who loves order, and I asked you if you think this person could be a librarian or a farmer, it's very intuitive, and you would probably say a librarian. Intuition doesn't require much thought. But did you consider that for every librarian there are 20 farmers? The number of farmers is much larger than the number of librarians. Hence, there are many organized, introverted individuals in that pool. Here again, your intuition can mislead you. Relying solely on superficial similarities, this person might look like a librarian, while ignoring other considerations. Intuition doesn't take into account any statistics, yet it can be effective. In a study titled Intuition, a Fundamental Bridging Construct in the Behavioral Sciences, research on intuition in the social sciences shows that when playing chess, 2 groups were collected. One group consisted of beginners and the other of experts. They were asked to memorize the positions of the pieces. After a while, it was found that the beginners could remember 25% of the pieces, while the experts could remember 95%. However, when the same participants were tested with disordered and mixed chess pieces, both groups, beginners and experts, remembered the same percentage, 25%. It was found that experts did not have a steel trap memory. They simply had years of experience and knowledge that allowed them to see the chessboard in a different way. This experience made them more accurate in recalling the piece positions and gave them better intuition than others in that scenario. Psychologist Herbert Simon expressed a remarkable thought: every situation gives a signal that allows experts to retrieve the stored information in their memory regarding that specific situation or something similar. This is intuition. It's neither more nor less than perception. Furthermore, a study was conducted on the Japanese game of shogi, where people were asked to achieve checkmate in a specific arrangement within 1 second without any thought. We want to see them in a state of intuition. As we performed a brain scan, we discovered that there was no activity in the cerebral cortex, the area associated with conscious thinking. However, the basal ganglia lit up, which is linked to habits and intuitive perceptions. Here, professionals managed to achieve checkmate purely through intuition without exerting any conscious thought. To explain this phenomenon, my beautiful listener, we need to talk about the wonderful psychologist and Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman. and his useful book, Thinking Fast and Slow. He mentions that every mind has two systems of thinking. For example, when you see a picture of someone frowning, you know that he is upset without having to make an effort to understand it. This system is intuition. It works well in normal times, and its predictions in the short term are excellent. In fact, it is helpful as we recognize many things throughout our daily lives, and not everything requires us to think and analyze it. However, intuition can also have errors and issues, as it sometimes struggles with statistics and logic. Sometimes it has biases, as we will learn shortly. But the second system takes control and has the final say. It is the manager that makes difficult decisions that require focus. For instance, if I ask you to calculate 17 times 24 and tell me the answer, someone might ask me, what's the connection to the topic? I will tell you that this system relates to a new profession or experience where the second system deals with it. However, as you practice and master it more, the energy required to perform this task decreases. When you learn a new task, you start with the second system, which involves conscious thinking, and with experience, things begin to shift to the first system, allowing you to almost perform it intuitively. It's like when you play a musical instrument. At first you don't know how to position your fingers or play anything, but after playing a lot you can play on your own. A pianist doesn't need to think every time they press a key. In the beginning, when you learn to drive, you start with System 1, paying attention to everything and concentrating. After that, System 1 takes charge, and now you can enjoy driving with a cup of tea in one hand and a sandwich in the other, while talking to the person next to you, and driving itself is managed by System 1. In experiments conducted on both systems, one such experiment involved 40 students from Preston University. They were given a question that seemed easy, but it required a little activation of the second system we talked about. Half of the students received a clear question written in a nice font, while the other half received the same question but written in a poor and small font. The surprise was that in the case of the ugly font, 65% of the students answered correctly, while in the case of the nice font, only 10% got it right. The strange part is that performance was better with the ugly font, and the explanation for this is that the ugly font seemed to provoke the second system responsible for thinking and effort, prompting it to work, focus, and answer correctly. In contrast, in the first case, where the font was clear, the brain activated System 1, which said, look at the question. Usually, it gives you what? You might ask me, isn't System 1 somewhat foolish and easily fooled? Unfortunately, yes, and it is also easily influenced. Have you ever been robbed before? Psychologists in the 1980s discovered something strange. Well, they always discover strange things. That your intuition can sometimes be biased, or when it is affected by a set of thoughts, it can lean towards certain opinions. Some German researchers found something interesting. A person's mood significantly impacts which system they operate. They discovered that when a person is tired and not in a good mood, their intuition system malfunctions, and the second thinking system kicks in, often leading to more sadness. The better your mood, the more the second thinking system shuts down and allows the first intuition system to work. This is good as it makes people more connected to their intuition and more creative, but it also means they are less cautious and more prone to making mistakes. Excessive relaxation can lead to errors. One study indicated that people who trust their intuition and rely on it for their decisions are more satisfied with their long-term choices than those who overthink for a long time. This is quite strange because we always say that we should think carefully about any decision in our lives to be satisfied with it and not regret it later. However, the flaw is that things don't always work that way. In summary, many philosophers and scholars state that using intuition in decision-making is a healthy practice, and at the same time, many things that seem intuitive may actually be proven wrong after research and contemplation. This doesn't mean we should lose confidence in our intuition because, just like other senses can be deceived, like when you see a spoon appearing broken underwater due to refraction when it is actually not broken, our intuition can also serve us in some situations. This doesn't lead us to lose faith in it. On the contrary, there are many sciences that we wouldn't have understood how to start without relying on intuition. On the other hand, it's not necessary for you to abandon logic and rely on intuition all the time, And whether you rely on intuition or thinking, System 1 or System 2, both will agree on one thing, that you should watch previous episodes and subscribe to the channel.